Hi, everybody. I see folks are arriving on the attendee side that I know are supposed to be on the other side with us. So, Kathleen and Sandra, I'm going to leave it to you to figure out how to get those folks over to us. Maybe you're already doing it. I think you are. Look at that. Already taking care of it. So hello, everyone. My name is Pat Sullivan. I'm just waiting as folks sort of join the room. I think they're doing that now. So this is great. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, I'm going to start and we'll get going from here. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm the President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I apologize if I look like I'm looking in two different directions. I have a monitor over here and a computer over here. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but I like to look at the biggest screen because my eyes aren't that good. I'd like to start off by thanking our sponsor, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, for making all of these webinars possible. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank our councillor candidates for both running in the municipal election and for being with us today. We'll be hearing from a number of districts today, from candidates for District 7 and 9 and just to clarify, District 7 is located in Halifax South downtown, and Wade Mason is currently the incumbent, and District 9 is located in Halifax West Armdale, and Sean Cleary is the incumbent, and Sam Austin is in District 5, who's also joined us, and District 5 is in beautiful downtown Dartmouth. Is that right, Sam? Yes? Nod? Yes, okay, perfect. That's great, thank you. The Halifax Chamber of Commerce appreciates the time and effort, of course, that is required to run for and become a councillor in Halifax. And of course, thank all of those who eventually become councillors for the time and effort they put in on behalf of the city once elected. We hope you all are able to gain some valuable insights into your district councillors and ask the questions relevant to you. Given the restrictions due to COVID-19, we were unsure whether candidates would be able to personally canvass, and we thought that this might be a good way to enable you to get your messaging out. The Halifax Chamber knows how important the role of the municipality is to the success of our business community, and that it's directly linked to the importance of our councillors and the decisions that they make. I wanted to ensure our members in the community could hear from and ask questions of their district candidates. So we are recording this event, so it will be available for all of our members and for you to look at in the future. For those of you that don't know, the overall goal of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce is to create value and prosperity for our over 1,700 members. And through our 2019 to 23 strategic plan, we're providing the services businesses need, hosting virtual and in-person events that will help them learn, and are advocating for conditions that enhance their prosperity. We have task forces fostering private sector growth and accessing a skilled workforce that are currently working towards goals that aid in our members' prosperity and the economic growth of the municipality. We usually, in a good year, host over 100 events a year, which focus on many of the areas mentioned above. In a non-COVID time, our signature and annual events feature local entrepreneurs, immigrants, post-secondary institutions, prestigious business organizations. Each year, we provide our members the opportunity to hear at the State of the Municipality and State of the Province during luncheons and to celebrate their successes at our business awards. As I mentioned, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors is sponsoring this series of Meet Your Candidate webinars. We'd like to say a big thank you to them for supporting this idea. I'd now like to pass it over to the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors to welcome the crowd and to say a few words. Chris, that's over to you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. I'll just give a quick intro on myself. My name's Chris Peters, 16-year resident out in Eastern Passage, going on 10 years as a realtor, and I currently sit as the president of the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. The Nova Scotia Association of Realtors is pleased to sponsor this series of Meet Your Candidate events. The NSAR represents over 1,600 salespeople and brokers across the province. Accordingly, we are the voice of real estate for Nova Scotia. Realtors are ambassadors of our communities and often one of the first points of contacts for new residents to Nova Scotia. We know the communities that we serve, from the schools and recreation facilities to the service providers and commute times. We are your trusted guides. Realtors connect home buyers to potential cost savings and government programs, such as the First-Time Home Buyers Incentive, and realtors play a key role in working with our elected officials to strengthen our housing markets. Realtors are also a key component of our local economy. In 2019, the average housing transaction through the NSAR MLS system generated an estimated $47,600 in spin-off spending, totaling over $586 million in spin-off spending in 2019 alone. In 2019, the MLS resale housing activity generated an estimated 4,400 jobs in Nova Scotia, and the real estate industry is a proud contributor to our vibrant communities. But as you all know, housing has been in the news for all kinds of reasons lately, especially when you think of the inventory that we have here in the HRM. Both inventory for homes as well as our vacant rates are extremely low. Without housing, our communities will suffer. Housing is a spectrum, from community and social housing to new builds. Realtors believe everyone should have a place they can call home. That's why we're pleased to participate in this series of discussions to help shape how our communities and our municipalities move forward. Every person on this call has the opportunity to work to make housing more affordable, from speeding up development permits to creating more rental spaces and encouraging backyard and secondary suites. We can all play a part in moving forward to better build better communities. Thank you to the Halifax Chamber for this opportunity to sponsor today's event. And thank you to each and every one of you for taking their time to put themselves forward during this election. So with that, Patrick, I will throw it back to you and our candidates.
That's great. Thank you very much, Chris. We will come back to Chris. He will ask the first official question as we get started. As you might guess, it'll be in the area of housing. But before we do that, I want to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. You will see, I think in a moment, you will see our clock come up. So we will have a clock that will be running during everyone's time to speak. We are trying to keep you at the initial 3 minutes to introduce yourselves and give a few reasons for running. And then we will have, you will each have 1 minute to move on. Now you will see this clock can look rather big if you have gallery view visible. I'm going to try to, I see I can't share my screen while the other participant has done that. But just to the edge of the clock on the right-hand side, if you move your mouse over there, you will see a line that appears between the picture and the clock. You can grab that line and you can pull it over to the left, which will reduce the size of the clock and likely enlarge your picture. So it will ultimately enable you to see more of the candidates as you're speaking or as I'm speaking. So just to let you know, okay? So now I'm going to move on to the, as soon as I can find where my mouse is, I'm going to move on to the candidates. I'm going to start with District 7. So I'm going to start with this is in no particular order. So I'm going to move the order around a little bit. Wei had asked me that a few moments ago. I will be moving the order around. I'll start with this order, but I'll kind of jump around. And Jen, if it's okay, we'll kind of keep you near the end of each of the questions so that you'll have an opportunity to respond, if that's okay. So I'm going to start with Sean Cleary. Sean, would you like to start? And you'll have about 3 minutes to introduce yourself and give a few reasons for running, and then we'll get into our questions.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So I'm Sean Cleary, resident on Quinpool Road. I turned my computer a little bit so you could see the lack of traffic these days on Quinpool and some of our other major streets. Before I got elected, I was assistant professor at Mount St. Vincent University teaching business. I still occasionally teach part-time there now. But I first ran in 2016 and got elected because I love Halifax and I want to make Halifax more sustainable. Environmentally sustainable, but more importantly, financially sustainable. For decades, Halifax has been developing in a way that we just can't afford to continue, and our environment definitely can't afford it. From amalgamation until now, our population has grown by about 28%, but the city's service land area has doubled and the city's budget has tripled. The Stantec report quantified the costs and benefits of different growth scenarios. Getting a handle on low-density, car-dependent development over the past 4 years has been a huge win for taxpayers and for the environment. And of course, there's much, much more that we need to do to ensure a more sustainable and a more equitable type of development takes place in Halifax, which means continuing to re-densify the urban core, working with our provincial and federal governments to get affordable housing built, and incenting developments that are more environmentally friendly and more accessible. Another reason that I'm running is to increase the safety on our streets. When I was running in 2016, and certainly in the last 4 years as a councillor, the vast majority of calls I get are about traffic and about traffic safety. So we need to make our streets more safe for vulnerable road users in particular. Ensuring that we build a sustainable and safe transportation system is critical to meeting our climate goals, our Vision Zero goals of reducing vehicle pedestrian collisions and the resulting injuries and deaths from those, and helping more people to live active and healthy lifestyles. I'm also running to bring fairness and equity to all of our communities, to reform our policing and public safety structures because Black Lives Matter, and to reallocate resources to social experts and health professionals who might be able to better serve our communities and work with residents to fully develop their neighborhoods and communities. I also want to work with, I also want our city to be more transparent, more accountable, and I want to ensure that we create safe, healthy, vibrant, and resilient and inclusive communities. For these and so many other reasons, I'm running again in District 9 to be your councillor and to help all residents make Halifax even better. Do you want me to just keep talking and fill in the rest of the...
I'm just going to keep talking on mute because it makes life so much easier. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm going to go to Gerald, but is it Jerry?
Yes, Jerry Lonergan.
Okay, Jerry, then you're up. 3 minutes.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Lonergan. I have a successful business on Quinpool. I've been there for 5 years, so I've been a very active player in the community. I've involved many different communities. I'm involved with just a lot of things that happen here. I'm also on the Merchants Association, on the board of directors for the Merchants Association for the local bid. During my daily encounterings with my customers, I hear a lot of different things. I understand a lot of things that are being talked about in the community. The general consensus is a lot of people feel like they're not being listened to. And I think there's a lot of easy things that we can put in place to just get more participation from the public, specifically with regards to public surveys. Recently, there was also a crosswalk that was asked for on Quinpool. That ended up being a petition. That should have been something that should have just gone straight out onto the HRM website and just get more information from people. I think that there's a lot of projects that go on that require timetables, but it all comes back to the lack of communication. As a small business owner, I have seen construction projects, like surprise construction projects that disrupt business. So I'm running to streamline that because with what's going on with COVID right now, a lot of small businesses are having a really tough go, and I want to ensure business continuity. Additionally, affordable housing is a big issue. In my own personal experience, I spent the last 2 years trying to find the current apartment that I'm living in. There's just simply an inventory shortage. So I have a proven track record with regards to efficiency. Before I became a merchant, I was working in the computer industry in programming and process improvements. And I want to bring that to the table to represent the community and to provide a win-win situation for everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jerry. Appreciate that. Okay, on to Jennifer Pauly. Jen?
Thank you, Patrick. My name is Jen Pauly, and I'm running for councillor of District 7. I moved to Halifax 20 years ago to do a journalism degree at the University of King's College. I fell in love with the city and decided to stay. I couldn't get jobs in journalism because they all seem to require that you take your own pictures. With my waning eyesight, I made questionable choices when it came to subject matter, so I got involved in disability advocacy. I thought I would be more reputable when I was arguing for accessible building design if I had a planning degree, so I got my master's in urban planning, then got a job on the transportation team at the Ecology Action Center. It was there that I became enamored with municipal politics and initiated the RHRM Alliance, a coalition of community groups fighting for a more livable and more sustainable HRM.
Are we good? Is that the end, or is there more? Just checking.
That's Jen says, I think that's all.
That's all. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jen. Appreciate that. Okay, on to Stephen Foster. There you are. Sorry, Stephen.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Foster. I'm running in District 9. First of all, I just wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Association of Realtors for putting this on. I'm really glad this event is taking place. To tell you a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in District 9. I grew up in the Armdale region. I went to John W., Kennard, and J.L. Leslie. My background is mostly in science. I did a degree in physics at Dalhousie, and I did a PhD in physics at the University of Toronto, where I researched new forms of renewable energy. And when I completed my degree, I moved back to Halifax pretty much immediately. That was always my plan during my PhD. And since then, I've spent most of my time working as a software developer at a local startup. Then I decided to run in this election. So the reason I'm running is because, I mean, first of all, I think Halifax is an amazing city. I would be honored to do anything I could to make it even better. I mean, there's a reason I came back here after my PhD. And I'm also running because I think I could do a lot of good on council. I think with my background, you know, I have a lot of experience diving into difficult, complicated issues, you know, figuring out what's going on and coming up with creative solutions to difficult problems. I'd also really like to bring more of a scientific approach to council. And by scientific, I don't mean, you know, turning everything into numbers or whatever. To me, science is all about listening, you know, listening to arguments, listening to good evidence, and changing your mind when you encounter good arguments and good evidence. And I'd really like to bring that attitude to council, a real evidence-based approach. In terms of issues, I think affordable housing is, of course, one of the most pressing issues HRM faces today. That would be one of my biggest priorities. I want to focus on rebuilding trust between the police and our marginalized communities. And of course, I want to focus on making sure that HRM is both green and sustainable. We need to make sure we preserve our amazing green spaces and that we do our part in the fight for climate change. And of course, you know, for any councillor that's elected in this election, one of their main jobs is going to be guiding the city through its recovery from COVID. So that's obviously going to be a huge priority for me. I think that's all. But I hope you'll consider voting for me when you vote in this election.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Stephen. I'm going to jump back now to Craig Roy. Craig, I think I can see an image, but I don't know that I can see you. Am I going to see you?
Am I visible?
No, I can see the background, but I can't see you.
Oh, okay. So you can see my lamp then.
I can see your lamp. Is that what it is? I thought it was a background.
It is a lamp. Yeah, I'd say there's just extra lighting. Okay, so if that's the case.
I mean, I can let you.
I don't use Zoom very often, so I apologize for the technical difficulties. I can start with my introduction and then maybe play with it as other people talk.
That sounds fine.
Okay, so first of all, I want to apologize in advance for any construction noise. I live across the street from a construction site, so every now and again you may hear drilling. I want to thank you for having me and for having these informative webinars. My name is Craig Roy. I'm running for council because as great as our district is, our district needs work. Halifax is evolving, and I think that our community has a long way to go. I want to have a helping hand guiding the next generation into continuing to have a great and progressive Halifax. A little about me, I'm an activist and entrepreneur, and I've worked within the education, human resource, and government sectors throughout my career. I have the knowledge and experience to become your next District 7 councillor. I was raised with a strong work and educational ethic. And after graduating high school, I moved to this beautiful city to attend university where I obtained a bachelor's degree. And over the years, I've received additional certificates and certifications in business. In 2004, as a single person, I adopted a 5-year-old boy by myself and became a parent for the very first time. So I understand the hardships that parents I understand the hardships that parents with children are facing, especially when it comes to affordable housing, transportation, and day-to-day living, amongst other things within our city. I am trying to make our streets better. And in fact, if you were in the Brenton and Clyde Street area, you would have noticed myself and my puppy out with garbage bags in hands as we go for walks, cleaning up the streets. Most recently, I've had garbage cans installed within District 7 with the hopes of eliminating the unnecessary amount of trash on our streets. In addition to my platform, which you can find at craigroy.ca, I want to meet the needs of our safer community with safer streets, parks, parking, and designated bus lanes. Attracting more diversity and inclusion within our city, promoting small businesses and industries while honoring our heritage, while honoring our history and innovating for the future, along with supporting the arts sector, plus so much more as your councillor. So Craig Roy for District 7 Halifax South Downtown Councillor this month. I want to put your interests first.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Craig. Now I'm going to jump on to Wei Mason.
Thank you, Patrick. So first, I wish to begin by acknowledging that the Halifax Regional Municipality is in Mi'kmaq. The municipality and all the peoples here are beneficiaries of the peace and friendship treaties with the Mi'kmaq. On this treaty day and on every treaty day, I extend to the Mi'kmaq people my respect and desire to build strong relationships in the spirit and intent of those treaties. So after 8 years, I hope that residents know what to expect from me as their councillor. I work hard to communicate to residents in an honest and unfiltered manner and to be there when they need support. And today, I think we all share a positive vision of the future of Halifax and District 7, one that builds on the work we've done so far and that reflects our values and our priorities. And so for years, I've advocated for progressive ideas, and I've delivered proven results. And we can see that in the district and in Halifax in our parks and transit and biking and walking and libraries, as well as our arts and culture investments. And in these 8 years, I've learned, well, it takes a long time to change the direction of government, but if you're persistent and you rewrite the plans and you understand how to make that change happen, you can change the direction and launch the city in a new direction. And that is what we've been doing since 2012. So this next term, there are 3 areas of focus that I think we need to have a look at, which are empowerment through economic security and affordable housing, building green and resilient communities, and better connecting people and places through active transportation and transit. But I'll talk more about those later on in the questions. Beyond those commitments, though, I like the statement, I say what I'll do, and I do what I said. In August 2012, before I was elected, I said, this is the time to plan for development and to defend those plans. This is the time for that. And that's what I've done. I've worked relentlessly for 8 years to update and defend our plans. In addition to meeting my promises, though, I fought the province over the poorly conceived plan to build a parking garage that would have ruined Wanderers grounds and Bengal Lancers, and I got them to change their plans. I provided leadership on police and public safety review. I protected Yonge Avenue through getting a land use bylaw change, and then I fought again to stop a rezoning that threatened those protections. I fought and succeeded to protect Schmidtville, Halifax's second heritage conservation district, and Old South Suburb, the third conservation district. And I worked to enhance heritage protections throughout downtown and all of HRM. I convinced council to ask the province to give us back municipal housing, and we're about to invest in housing for the first time in 20 years. We've grown the city at a record rate while keeping expenses and taxes under control, and I've always been there for business in downtown, delivering on projects like Barrington Street renewal, the Argyle Street project, and getting ready for the Spring Garden project to start next year. I've spent the last 6 months working to help guide the intergovernmental economic response to the social and economic challenges of COVID-19. I'm a board member of the Halifax Partnership, Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, and the Association of Municipal Administrators. I hope to continue that work. We've made a lot of progress these last 8 years. I've enjoyed representing District 7, and I hope to continue with your support. Thank you.
Oh, look, Way squeezed an extra 1 second out of there. Lucky this time. We'll see how it goes next time. On to Bill Carr. Bill. Oh, and you're on mute.
There we go.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. It's an interesting question to ask why I'm running. First of all, I've had a long career in speaking and in the arts as a motivational speaker and also as an actor, writer. And at this point in my life, I'm coming into this particular arena because I think it's a time when we need creativity, we need some innovation. I think that the work that's been done over the last number of years by the council, and it's wonderful to see some of the incumbents here, you have done some amazing work, and there's absolutely no question of that on the development end. But I'm finding that there's a real need in our community for a greater sense of participation, a greater sense of being heard and understanding how, and I think mechanisms need to be in place for that. I don't think it's ever been the intention to shut people out, but that's what's coming across. And I'm going to talk a little later about some of the projects that are being developed and changed and worked on right now that maybe if there'd been more insight from the people coming into the projects, there wouldn't have been the need for revision now. I'm very excited by what's happening here in this area. And as Wei was saying, it is a treaty day. We are in Mi'kma'ki, and this cultural heritage, the richness of this area is invaluable, but I also don't think it's as well understood as it needs to be. And I hope to bring a bit of that into my work. The issues around affordable housing, and this is another thing, there's issues like affordable housing and the issues about defunding the police, etc., and systemic racism. And I wonder if there had been more participation all along, if we wouldn't have these type of crises arising. And I think this is what I want to bring to the table is an ability to engage the public and empower the public and help them, give them mechanisms so that they can participate all along the way. I'd love to see an election where they go, well, there are no real issues because everything's already being currently worked on effectively and well, and people feel heard and ready to go. And that would be a wonderful election to be involved in. I'm going for 4 years. I want to mention this too. I'm only going for 4 years. I will be done in 4. I hope to start a new counselor's school to bring young, vibrant, new, and diverse people into the program to replace me. That's a critical issue. I have about 10 seconds left, so I'll say, as we go along with the other questions, I'll fill in some of the other stuff. But my enthusiasm is endless, and I also have complete faith in the people of this city.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much, Bill. And now on to Sean Clark. Sean, I can't see you, but I think you're there. Do you want to unmute and join us? Sean? Well, then we'll move on to Sam Austin. Sam, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your reasons for running?
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to the Chamber and the Association of Realtors for this opportunity to be here today, especially when yesterday's council meeting kept me out of the scheduled District 5 event. So, Who am I? I live in downtown Dartmouth with my 2 girls, but I grew up a country kid on the Eastern Shore. I've always loved cities. It's why I became an urban planner. It's urban issues that really resonate with me. I've always had a passion for politics, and what politics really is all about for me is making a better world. And I can't think of a more rewarding job than being a counselor in this place that I love. City Hall is where my heart is, and it's been an enormous privilege to represent Dartmouth Centre. Over the last 4 years, I think folks in Dartmouth have gotten a very good sense of who I am because I've really worked to do politics differently. I actively bring forward ideas at council for consideration, and I never shy from difficult issues. My core philosophy is that although we might disagree from time to time, why something happened should never ever be a mystery. And that's why I work so hard to engage with people through my website, samaustin.ca, where you can find a really unrivaled level of detail as to what's going on at City Hall and my particular take on different issues. I've basically written a book or 2 over the last 2 years. I'm very proud of the work that council's done and to make Dartmouth and HRM a better place to live, work, and play. Some of the highlights for me include the completion of the Zatzman Sportsplex renovation, finishing the first phase of the center plan, the major shift we're seeing in transportation that is seeing HRM prioritize walking, cycling, and transit in ways that we simply never have before. And of course, the first phase of the Sawmill River project in downtown Dartmouth. The old saying that time flies is never more true than politics, and I suppose parenting as well. 4 years goes by quick, and now I'm seeking a second term. I'm running because I'm a doer, and I think it can help HRM be its best self. This is a strange time. COVID-19 and the threat of climate change, it really looms large. I want to be very clear about our priorities. Some of the key ones for me that I want to work on in the next 4 years, I want to see HRM follow through on our ambitious transportation plans. We've got a great climate change plan that we now need to implement. We need to finish the center plan, take action to clean up our lakes, daylight the rest of the Sawmill River, address the housing crisis, and not shy away from the difficult social issues such as homelessness, racism, injustice, poverty. HRM can only truly be successful when everyone is included. It's a tall order, I know, but hey, dream no small dreams. I would be honored to have your support this October. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sam. I'm going to go back to Sean Clark. Sean, I think your audio is on. Can you hear me?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you, but that's okay. You can certainly talk.
Oh, good to hear. I can't see you guys either. I'm visually impaired. So.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, shame you can't see me. I'm here at the wonderful Job Junction on Mumford Road. It's still open for business if anybody wants to stop by. They still do training online most often, but they're still here. And they're kind enough to let me use their Wi-Fi today. I'm mostly running because of affordable housing. All my family and friends live in apartments, and we've had a lot of trouble over the last couple of years. We are facing a big crisis. I have several family members facing rent evictions by January. One person got a $905 rent increase this past month.
Oh, Sean, you went back to mute somehow. Can you unmute? Or can somebody unmute? Kathleen, can you unmute Sean?
Yes, we are trying to unmute right now.
Okay. Oh.
All right, there we go.
Sorry, Sean, we lost you there for a second. You can pick it up there.
All right, so I also care about our infrastructure because I have children and I want them to survive to adulthood, so I can't have them getting hit by a car. I want them to have a world to live in their adulthood. I want to have grandchildren someday. I am not an expert in anything. I am a low-income individual who's simply running to try to help out other people who might know what it's like to do this. I was asked to run because nobody felt connected to anybody in the council. So I was given that opportunity and I took it. I'm going to try to show the council some ideas of what it's like for other people who might not have the means to speak out and what their ideas might be. I'm not the best public speaker and I do apologize for that. I don't know how much time is left. I cannot see my timer.
That's okay, Sean. I was going to give you kind of a heads up. You've got another minute and a half, but if you're finished, you're
Awesome.
finished. That's okay.
All right. Well, I'm good with moving on.
All right, well, that's fine. I think what I discussed with Kathleen was as we're going to move into the 1 minute section, I'll give you sort of 10 seconds when as we get closer to the 1 minute. So we'll start the clock, and I'll give you kind of a 10-second warning. Does that sound okay?
That sounds wonderful. I'll try to keep it short and brief anyway.
Okay, no problem. Everyone is going to have to keep it short and brief. So that's the challenge we're going to face now. So thank you very much, everybody, for introducing yourselves. I think we got through everybody. Really appreciate it. That was the 3-minute round, and now we're going to go into the rapid round, which will last for a little while, which is everyone will have 1 minute. It is our intention to kind of cut folks off. We are going to be a little bit flexible, obviously, if there's an issue that folks have. So we'll be careful there. But we'll head on to the 1 minute section. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Chris, who will start us off with a question that seems kind of top of mind.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to each of our candidates. You guys clearly, in your brief presentations there, have demonstrated your passion for your districts. So obviously, my question coming from the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors is going to be on housing. Purchase and rental housing supplies are near historic lows in Nova Scotia. Housing is essential to our communities and our businesses. How will you ensure there is a healthy housing mix that includes the entire spectrum from community housing, rental, and home ownership? Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to try and put that question up in the chat. So just to remind the folks who are watching or listening, we have at the bottom of the screen, we have a chat function and a Q&A function. You're able to put in questions on both the chat or the Q&A. I'd encourage you to put it in on the Q&A. If any of the panelists would like to speak to me privately, you can do that in the chat as well. I'm going to kind of work my way back the way we started. Start at with some of the last speakers and work my way back. So Sam, I'm going to speak with you first. So 1 minute on the question, and I do see I have a question from somebody there. Just a mention at the top corner. It says speaker view or gallery view. You can click on that. So my view is now spotlighted. If you click on all the little dots in the top right-hand corner, that will return you to gallery view, so you can see everybody that's speaking. Okay, now back to Sam. Sam.
Thank you. So housing has become a crisis. It's snuck up on all of us because for some positive reasons. We've had an unprecedented amount of economic growth. The challenge is it has left people behind. The vacancy rates have been driven down to almost nothing. It's an area that's really frustrating for all of us on council because so much of the housing file is provincial. There can be no solution without provincial involvement. What HRM can do is modernize our plans to eliminate barriers to building housing. Council has a good track record on that with the center plan and secondary seats. I think the most significant opportunity open to us is the creation of a housing fund. Saskatoon, a city roughly our size with the same jurisdictional barriers, has created over 2,700 units over the last 5 years by working with nonprofits. I think we can do the same thing here, which will go a long way to meeting our commitments in the housing and homelessness partnership.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sam. On to Jerry.
There we go. Unmuted. Yes, I think the key to that one is it has to be a mix. We need a balance between urban densification and new developments outside the downtown core with an emphasis on affordable housing. We need oversight on that to make sure that everyone's on a level playing field. Additionally, we need to work with the province to get some kind of cap on the out of control rent situation. I mean, I just read in the paper the other day, somebody had a rent increase of 45%. That has to be capped. We can't do that. So we need to work with the province to get some limits put in place. That would also work in part at helping resolve just the out of control rents. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. Stephen Foster.
Yeah, so I think affordable housing is, again, probably the most pressing issue that faces HRM today. I think fixing it is going to require sustained effort at all three levels of government. The city has an important role to play, though. I think it's been making good steps recently with secondary suites and just a few days ago or yesterday, the affordable housing grants. I think those are good first steps. We need to do more. I think a big part of the problem is just, I think we need to recognize that we have a housing crisis because we have a housing shortage. As Sam said, we have a growing population and we need to be building more. And so the city needs to be doing everything it can to facilitate that. I think a big part of that is just streamlining the approval process for new developments. Of course, making sure that what we do build is, the housing that we want as a city. But we need to facilitate more building.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Stephen. On to Sean Cleary.
Thanks, Patrick. So, if you look at the mix right now, we're one of the lowest cities of home ownership in Canada. We're around 60% ownership, 40% rentals. And so a huge amount of development that's been happening is in the rental market. So that's actually helping. The previous council and this council has approved thousands of units of development. And one of the issues is actually supply in the development sector, contractors, concrete, steel, wood. So that is something we need to partner with the federal and provincial governments on and just make sure we've got more people working in the industry here in terms of the immigration. Sam mentioned immigration, we're at record levels of immigration, record levels of economic growth. Secondary and backyard suites will help supply. Importantly, though, the regional plan review that's coming up in the center plan that's halfway completed now, where we're densifying in zoning areas that are more sustainable to develop in and getting more of those units going from R1s to R2s and R3s and getting more people living here in the city.
Okay, that's great. Cutting it close there, Sean. Thank you very much. And on to Sean Clark.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can we hear?
Yeah, you're good.
Awesome. So I was thinking of, and of course, I have heard a ton of ideas because it's one of the things I talk to people about when I'm campaigning. My favorite idea right now is that we look at making sure that Administrative Order 50 prioritizes low-income housing, and not just affordable, but low-income, which is housing community organizations and groups that can afford to rent out to people who are on, say, social assistance, pension, or disability, because those folks don't make enough money on average in a month to pay what's listed as affordable housing in the city. I have a list of about six to 16 ideas now, depending on how you want to look at it. Some of them are not so feasible, some of them are more long-term, but there's quite a few things we can do. And of course, working with the province is really important. In regards to building new homes, we have in District 9 here some undeveloped land, but I say we don't touch it. And that's good for me. Let's not develop on our undeveloped land right now because we don't have a lot of space left for green spaces.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much, Sean. There we go. That was kind of 2 seconds over. That was perfect. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank you very much.
Bill Carr.
Yeah, this issue is controversial because I think one of the things we have to do is wrest more control from the province, actually, and make sure that we're taking care of our own city. And I find that the idea of overdevelopment, building more buildings, but not ensuring that those buildings include areas of affordable housing or incentive to create affordable housing. I think the developers have to be brought in as partners in this to make sure that that happens. And also the low-income people are abandoned at the moment in many ways. In terms of how we move forward, I think we need to talk to the needs. And in order to do that, we need to find out what exactly they are. There are a lot of people who aren't currently being served, and they need to be heard before they can be served. So we need to find out what the real statistics are needed before we just build helter-skelter.
That's great. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate that. We're going to go to Wei, and then we're going to wrap up with Jen. So Wei? Might have missed
Thank you very much, Pat. So, I mean, Sam already said one of our biggest challenges is that we've been so successful with 32,000 people moving to Halifax in the last 4 years. So we have unprecedented population growth. And what that means is we need all types of housing. We need, as Sean just said, we need low-income housing, and we need workforce housing. People at all types of income levels are starting to be forced out of where they want to live and where they want to raise their family. So the 2018 homeless housing work plan identified a whole bunch of areas that we can act on as a city. But I think the pragmatic approach is that we really need to focus on resources that the municipality can control and not wait for the province. We need to do things like the donut plan or the suburban plan, and we need to look at greenfield development, but also affordable housing funding, fee and permit cuts, multi-year tax breaks, all the things that council has voted on in the last couple of weeks. But the final piece I want to say before I run out of time is that 2 years ago, I convinced council to ask the province to give us affordable housing back. Halifax and Winnipeg are the only major cities that don't have housing, and we need to continue that power.
There we go. Good try, Wei, but I think I cut you off. Sorry.
Good job, moderator.
Okay. Thank you very much. I did neglect to say we had Craig to go as well, but first we'll go to Jen, and then we'll come back to Craig.
HRM should develop an office of non-market housing. This office could help get the backyard suites underway. Affordable housing is the province's jurisdiction. The province has not given HRM the charter power to require inclusive zoning, but that does not mean HRM can do nothing. They have the power under Section 3 of the charter to ensure that all the needs of the community are being met. Housing is one of those needs. HRM needs to look at other ways of ensuring the community has housing. It might mean retrofitting office towers. We simply cannot add concrete, steel, and glass to the already tenuous situation. Because the convention center is not being used for conventions anytime in the foreseeable future, I propose that HRM apply to the federal government for the money they have set aside for purchasing existing office buildings and hotels and converting them into housing.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jen. Appreciate that. And then on to Craig.
So one of my platform issues is affordable housing. The affordable housing crisis is at a low of 1%. Halifax is growing, which is fantastic, but we need to work with all levels of government to help the developers cut the red tape on how they can build more inventory, perhaps by providing tax breaks for those individuals who want to spend their own funds on increasing our population's housing prices.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate that. Those of you that are keeping an eye on the chat or the Q&A will note that there are a couple of questions there. I'm going to head to those questions. So I'm going to start with one of the questions at the top. I'm just going to kind of move it around. Hope that's okay. Again, folks have 1 minute. The question in the Q&A says, the work of council is often limited to the powers they are granted by the province. In your opinion, how can council advocate to have more responsibility and generate real change? I'm going to ask, it's visible there, so I think you can see it if you click on Q&A, but I'll read it one more time. The work of council is often limited to the powers they're granted by the province. In your opinion, how can council advocate to have more responsibility and generate real change? I'm going to start in the center of my screen and go to Wade for that one.
We, as I said, we're one of the few cities, the only city in the country that doesn't have housing, for example, other than Winnipeg. And there's a lot of other provinces you can look at, most recently Alberta, that have changed their municipal government act to give cities the power they need. So I think that we just have to make the economic case that we are the goose that lays the golden egg for Nova Scotia. And without those changes, it's going to impair our ability to grow businesses, pay taxes, and fund provincial operations.
That's great. Thank you, Wei. Okay, on to Stephen Foster.
There we go. Yeah, so this is one of those issues that seems like a perennial problem that comes up again and again. And I think in large part, it's just a battle we're gonna have to keep fighting. We'll, there's lots of things that council wants to do but isn't able to because they don't have the jurisdiction. I think HRM represents almost half the population of Nova Scotia. It's an incredibly important municipality, and I think it needs to have more jurisdiction than it does. So I mean, we'll just have to keep fighting to get that jurisdiction wherever we can.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Stephen. On to Jerry.
Yeah, hi. I think it's also a point where we need to just increase communication, get our MPs in there, get our MLAs in there, and just have them come and explain, have a roundtable discussion, and just discuss all the options that are available to us. I think a lot of the questions that I'm receiving in the community, it's like, well, this falls under provincial, this one falls under municipal. I think people need help learning where those lines are, and we need to work as a council together to fight for what our city needs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, that's great. Thanks, Jerry. And you disappeared there for a minute, so I don't know if maybe you clicked off your camera while you clicked on your audio there, but just a reminder. Bill Carr.
Yeah, this is one of the key issues that I've been looking at. I think that we have to control our own homes, and this is a vital issue. I think we need to recognize that 47% of the province are in the city. The newcomers are coming to this city. We need to be able to make decisions that are critical, and we need to make them quickly and effectively. And I think it's literally power. We are the government. The provincial government, the federal government, and the municipal government are all the same people. We just have to make sure that that coordination is understood, and we can wield that power carefully and cooperatively, but we need to wield it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Craig. Oh, on mute. Oh, Craig, you're on mute. There we go. There you go.
So as other people indicated earlier in their answers as well, is that I believe that we need to have more power within council to make those decisions without wondering whether or not it's a provincial or federal issue. If there are barriers that we're uncertain as to what's taken place, there should be some kind of jurisdiction power or even temporary power to initiate some kind of plan or goal, so that way things don't go unhinged and or forgotten about.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Sean Clark, let me just read the question again. The work of council is often limited to the powers they're granted by the province. In your opinion, how can council advocate to have more responsibility and generate real change?
All right, so I think we need to ask politely, and then we need to act. Like Jen said, that was an awesome response earlier, by the way. And we can act, and if we get the affordable housing in, like Jen said, we could try that. Then we could do the same with the traffic, with the street speeds. We need to bring it down to 30. And we need to keep doing these things. We need to not just let things be a static environment. We need change. Bill's been great at supporting me in some of my initiatives to try to get the provincial parties out to see the way things are right now. But we need more voices than just the few of us.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on to Sam, and then we'll go to Jen. Sam.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to the anonymous person for the question. So when it comes to dealing with the province, it's always a very difficult experience, whether it's affordable housing, heritage, speed limits. We bump up against provincial limitations all the time. Sometimes they are cooperative, sometimes they're not, and sometimes they give you powers that you never even asked for in the first place. I think we really need a systematic change in Nova Scotia in our political culture to prioritize actual local responsibility, because this has been true no matter which political party's been in power. I think the real problem is the embedded political culture that exists within the bureaucracy and within all our provincial parties. And the thing that we can do as council is try and rally people in the general public to this problem by identifying it when things come up. People should know why they can't have a 30 or 40 zone on their street, why we couldn't stop the developer from tearing down that heritage building, why we can't require a certain number of units that be affordable in all projects. They should know about the provincial limitations, because it's only the political pressure coming from the grassroots that's really going to change this.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Sam. Jen, and then I forgot Sean Cleary, but we'll come back to you, Sean. So Jen Pauly.
We don't have the option of building fresh. We need to look at what is already built and see how we can convert it. Our future will not look like our past. We may not need more powers to do this.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you. And Sean Cleary.
Thanks, Patrick. So we have actually been successful in a couple of areas of getting more power. So on speed limits, yes, we asked the province 3 times for lower speed limits, but they didn't want to give it to us. But there's a mechanism in the Motor Vehicle Act that allows us to apply to the minister street by street. So I actually have a whole neighborhood that's been moved from 50 kilometers an hour down to 40 kilometers an hour in Springvale, Fairmont. When we were looking at the speed limits, and constantly comes in, I get emails, I tell people, look, call your MLA, here's their number, here's their email, get in touch with them. With the parking garage on the common, for example, the province didn't need us to approve anything. They didn't ask for our approval. What they needed was an easement. But Way's very successful lobbying, working with the minister, working with government, putting pressure, using the community. We didn't get all the changes we wanted, but we did get some changes and less green space affected. The province gave us natural person powers when we asked for natural person powers and good government powers. This allowed us to do things like after the Portapique massacre, we were able to contribute to the funeral costs of one of the unfortunate victims of that. We would not have been able to do that before we had those natural person powers. So there are areas where we've been successful, and we can use those models to keep getting.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sean. I think I got everybody. If I didn't get anybody, please yell at me. No, I think we're good. Okay, great, thank you. We are getting questions here, so I'm going to move on to some of these other questions. There was a question in the chat. I'm going to summarize it, so just so that you kind of get a sense. But it basically says there are record levels of immigration in Halifax. Why did council vote for Uber and Lyft, which will put immigrant drivers who drive taxis out of work? They've also heard the emphasis on public transit, and again, with Uber and Lyft, it may be cheaper to take Uber and Lyft than to take transit. So why did councillors vote for Uber? I don't want to make this just about councillors. I want to make this about everyone. So why did councillors vote for Uber? Or should we have, let's just say, should we have voted for Uber? And I'm going to sort of challenge everyone with that question. Jerry, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay.
Absolutely, that's okay. I think that when I talk to a lot of the taxi drivers, the main concern is the taxi drivers have to pay various fees. They have to go through a commercial licensing, commercial insurance, and Uber and Lyft don't have these restrictions. So while I think if we do let in Uber and Lyft, we should hold them to the same standard of accountability that we hold our current taxi drivers. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jerry. On to Way.
Thank you, Patrick. So part of getting ready for Uber and Lyft and any rideshare or TNC was to change the taxi rules to try and better align the rules for taxis and the rules for rideshare so that they would be similar. So that has happened to try and level that playing field. And again, taxi drivers pay for dispatch from taxi. They're not employees, they're independent operators. So what we've done is we've allowed a different kind of dispatch to happen in Halifax. That is something that a lot of people were demanding and expected to see happen. So, you know, there could be some change in terms of the number of taxi drivers, but one of the biggest complaints that we've been hearing is there aren't enough taxi drivers in Halifax. So we also had opened up the licensing for that so that we'd have more drivers. You know, at the end of the day, what we're hoping is people will be able to get cabs to get home from being out at night on the weekend, or be able to get cabs or Ubers in downtown or in Cole Harbour or in rural. So we believe these changes will provide that.
Okay, Wei, we'll cut you off there. That's great. Thank you very much. And on to Craig.
So having more options is never a bad thing. I think that we need to meet the needs of our people and community who need transportation. I agree with Wei when he indicated that we don't have enough taxi drivers. I've been a person waiting for cabs forever, both by way of trying to flag them and or calling, and just waiting and waiting and waiting. Hopefully Uber and Lyft will alleviate these pains that customers are feeling.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Craig. On to Sean Clark. Sean, are you good with that question?
Yep, I'm good with that. I was thinking about it. You know, I don't get a lot of taxis anymore. I got my low-income bus pass. That gets me around pretty good. But I do know quite a few taxi drivers in my area. And I've got to say, they are not very happy with the fees. They like to pay less than $2,000 there for the registration fee. And I could understand that totally when you're not making that much money. But beyond that, the councillors themselves were in a tough position, and they had a lot of voices yelling at them from the public to get these in there. And you kind of have to go with the more voices of the public. You can't try to specialize who you listen to. So I think they did good.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sean. On to Bill Carr.
Yeah, first of all, the immigrants in this city contribute in a lot more areas than just cab driving. I just want to get that out of the way. But also, one of the things that we have to look at is Uber and Lyft. Are they a good idea? Maybe, but do we need more cars in the downtown? Do we need more traffic? Wouldn't it be a better idea to improve the bus system to the point where you don't need to, you can take the odd cab, but we don't need more cars in the downtown? In Toronto, I very seldom ever, when I was there, took a cab because I didn't need to. The transportation system was so efficient and so effective that you could get around quite well. I think we need to focus more on our transportation systems and the bus systems here at Metro Transit, and see if we can improve ourselves that way, rather than in creating more congestion in the downtown. It's already a tough issue.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Bill. Go on to Sam Austin, and then we'll go to Jen right after that. So Sam Austin.
Thank you. And the Uber Lyft issue, it was for me anyway, I felt very conflicted on that one. I actually voted to defer a decision because I wanted to see whether the province would give us the per trip fee that we had requested. Because the idea of the per trip fee was that we would use money collected to offset some of the damage that we know rideshare will do in terms of attracting riders off of transit, attracting people out of active transportation. Unfortunately, that did not pass council. And so then we had that stark choice of, well, do you want this or do you not? And on this one, I went with the will of the majority of the people I've been hearing and from the business community that had identified this as a want. So I'm not entirely certain that we got this one right, to be totally honest. And I don't mean to be fence sitting about it, but this is one that I really did feel very conflicted on.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sam. Jen.
We should not have voted for Uber. There's no guarantee that they will put accessible cars on the road. In cities that have Uber, emissions from vehicles are 60% higher. I know it markets itself as ride sharing, but that's a myth.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jen. Sean Cleary.
Thanks, Patrick. So I actually did not vote for TNCs like Uber and Lyft. And not because I don't want choice and not because I don't want modernity, but I have a number of concerns, and Sam mentioned one of them. That was the per trip fee that the province wasn't going to allow us to offer, which other jurisdictions do have their TNCs contribute to. And ours was going to go to more accessible taxis, and it was going to go to green infrastructure, because we know in every jurisdiction where TNCs operate, congestion increases and vehicle miles traveled increases. In terms of the problem council was trying to solve, we were trying to solve a lack of supply. That could be done in a number of ways. We're also trying to look at safety and make our whole taxi industry, our vehicle for hire industry safer. That did happen, but the lack of supply and the environmental concerns are still there. So until the province could come to the table and allow us to charge a per trip fee to invest in green infrastructure, I couldn't support it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Sean. Stephen.
Yeah, so obviously a very contentious issue. If I were on council, I likely would have voted for the motion to allow Uber. I share a lot of the concerns that people have already brought up. I think ultimately it does come down to allowing more choice and going with what the people wanted here. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those issues which comes with a lot of downsides, but ultimately I think it is worth it, especially in terms of getting more, especially when it comes to getting more people off the road who might be intoxicated, reducing drunk driving. I think that's really important. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that issue.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for that. We do have some questions in the Q&A. I'm going to get to those, but first I want to ask one of my own, which is a little more topical. I think it may be one that you've seen before, but COVID-19 has had a great impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time? Maybe I could get our guys to put that in the chat so that you can all see that question. But I'll repeat it again. COVID-19 has had a great impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time? And of course, I will get back to the questions in the Q&A. Bill, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's a very complex question. The answer initially is safely. We want to get back, everybody get back as safely as we possibly can. And I also think we have to be careful because one size doesn't fit all. The small businesses are affected in a completely different way than some of the large corporate enterprises here in the city. And I think we need to be very careful to ask and be careful to listen to what they really need in order to get themselves up and operational. Some of the businesses have adapted quite well, and they're using the in-home work and they're making it functional. And they're looking for more infrastructure support in that area. Good, let's make sure that happens. The idea of social distancing, though, is still going to be an issue, and we have to make sure that we're clear on the science, and we have to look at how to do it safely, carefully, and yes, aggressively. But look, what we are in a very wonderful bubble at the moment, and we want to maintain that not at all costs, but certainly not at the cost of people's health.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Bill. Stephen Foster.
All right. Yeah, so obviously COVID has had a terrible effect on a lot of businesses, particularly tourism and the restaurant sector. I think in terms of direct financial relief, obviously the federal and provincial governments are better positioned to help there. But I think it might be worth looking into lowering HRM's corporate tax rate. A lot of these businesses are struggling for their survival, and businesses that goes under will not be providing any tax revenue. Other than that, I think we need to make sure that HRM is listening to what businesses need, and they're being quick and responsive and adaptive in responding to those needs. I think, just as a small example, the loosening the restrictions on patios is the kind of thing that we need to be doing. We need to be listening to businesses who are telling us what they need and doing whatever we can to help them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Stephen. Sean Clark, let me just repeat the question for you, Sean. COVID-19 has had a great impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time?
I met a woman recently who was setting up her business from Montreal to Halifax because of our record with COVID. They're bringing the whole company here. And that's great because that'll bring more money into our economy. But it's a big business. It's not supporting our small businesses. I would like to, if maybe we could reach out to the film industry, get those $100 million movies to come here, employ our people as their staff, as their crew, and put more jobs for our people so that they could have more money to spend in our small businesses, in our restaurants. We can keep the major actors in our hotels and have that money spent in that way.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, John. Okay, Sam Austin.
Thanks. I know COVID has hurt many people economically, from employees that lost jobs to business that had to close or saw their customers drop significantly. The effects have really landed unevenly, with some facing major losses while others experienced no loss at all, and some are even having a banner year. The municipality, we weren't immune. We had to absorb multi-millions in losses ourselves, and there was a lot of work that went into making sure that we managed our own house prudently, since that is in everyone's long-term interests. We don't provide direct relief. We don't have that legal power, and to be more blunt about it, we don't have that sort of money. That's federal, provincial. What we are able to do is borrow to ensure that we can allow business to stretch out the tax payments, to manage our own cash flow challenges. If we have to be flexible about the repayment of taxes, forcing people into tax sales isn't in anyone's interests. Atrium and other municipalities haven't needed to borrow as much as originally imagined, and so I think the mayor's call for the province to divert that towards the hospitality sector makes sense.
Okay, oh, look at that, cut you off just in time.
Just in time.
Thank you very much, Sam. Okay, on to Wei, and then we'll go to Jen.
Well, I was lucky to be working with the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities the last 6 months, and that's how we obtained $67 million for municipalities in Nova Scotia. So capital and construction would continue, and $330 million line of credit, so that the tax relief that Sam was just talking about could be extended. So, you know, we also did a lot of work to cut our budget and keep the budget in line, so that, to help support that kind of thing. But, you know, we have to keep lobbying the province for targeted relief for this huge swath of the hospitality industry you know, from hotels to restaurants to bars, that's been impacted more than anybody else. We have to work with the Halifax Partnership on the COVID recovery plan that was passed in spring 2020. But as Stephen said, that one of the biggest things is just to be creative and open to new ideas, allowing parks and streets to be used for large service areas for restaurants, and to work with the business improvement districts and Chamber of Commerce and other business organizations to identify problems and then act on those opportunities to support our businesses.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Wei. Jen.
Nova Scotia is a low-wage economy. The median income for a Nova Scotian family is $60,000 a year. That does not leave much disposable income after taxes, benefits, rent, utilities, and food. I believe we need to pay employees a living wage, which in Halifax is $21.80 per hour. This means that working people will have more money available. This can provide opportunities for local businesses. Affordable housing is a priority for me, and I also want to make transit free in order to reduce the number of cars on our roads. Both these measures will increase the amount of cash in people's wallets. Further, I am proposing more walkable communities, which will offer greater opportunities for business, as it has been proven that people are more willing to stop and explore local businesses if they are on foot, or however you people do that sort of thing.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much, Jen. Now we know who the comedian is. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Craig. Oh, and you're on mute, Craig. I can't hear you, but I don't think you're on mute. Keep talking.
Nope. Oh, sorry. Great question. Thanks, Patrick. So COVID-19 has definitely put a spin on things. This pandemic has put a lot of people this pandemic has come with a lot of uncertainty. Many businesses were forced to temporarily close their doors, while some businesses were forced to downsize, and some had to lay off staff altogether. We need to work with both federal and provincial governments to work with lowering the taxes and business fees. Business fees such as telephone, internet, square footages. Business taxes are 3 times higher than residential taxes. A great way to support them in the short term is by purchasing.
Oh, sorry, Craig. You were very close. Thank you very much for the comments, though. Sean Cleary.
Thanks, Patrick. So as Wei mentioned, we were very prudent with our own budget at City Hall. We had to shift around $80 million in operational savings, cut $100 million out of the capital budget. We kept contracts going out the door, so local suppliers, local contractors still had business in the area. I provided personally through the Capital 9 or the District 9 capital funds money to the Quinpool Road Business Association so they could put physical spacing markers on the road. You see those queues around the sidewalks in front of businesses. Wei and I are both on the Halifax Partnership board. The Halifax Partnership came up with a COVID recovery plan that's being implemented right now, and a new initiative just announced, the Digital Main Street and Shop Here initiative. I worked with local businesses like the Armview restaurant so that they could use Rotary Park to expand their lounge so that they could actually serve food and alcohol out on the park because they couldn't get all the customers in their restaurant. Things like that are how we're going to keep moving forward through COVID.
That's great. Thank you, Sean. Okay, and Jerry.
There we go. Unmuted. Thank you. Some of the great things that we did, extra patios, we waived some of the patio fees. I think we need to support our local businesses by especially evaluating city projects that impact small businesses negatively. Surprise construction is one of them, road work. Once the lockdown ended, the first thing that was happening was the day that the lockdown ended, they were going to do some construction on Quinpool. I had 2 restaurant owners come to me in a panic. We got into a conference call and we ended up postponing that to a Monday. So we need to be more sensitive to the needs of these restaurants that are holding on by a thread. Everybody's very nervous and we need to support them. Also, free 1-hour parking would be a great thing. Adding parking meters right now when we're doing deliveries doesn't make sense right now. We need to hold off on that. Free parking for 1 hour. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jerry. I know we have some additional questions left, and I'm going to try to get to those, but I want to go to one more question that we have planned, which is, what are your priorities for the next 4 years, and how do you plan on achieving them? So what are your priorities for the next 4 years, and how do you plan on achieving them? Let's see, in no particular order, I'm going to go to Sam, actually. Sam?
Thanks. So some of my key priorities are delivering the Sawmill River project in downtown Dartmouth, HRM's climate change plan, Halifax 2050, taking action to address pollution in Dartmouth's lakes, and continuing to work to make sure our transportation system is more sustainable. The key to getting anything done is being engaged with staff and your council colleagues. I'm pleased to say that I have played a direct role in council in initiating work on all these items. The key now is to make sure that they make it onto HRM's priority list at budget time. Budget time is where the push and pull of competing priorities is most acutely felt. It's the most important time of the year for council. I will continue to advocate for these priorities, especially when it really counts during budget deliberations.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sam. Okay, on to Craig. Craig? There you go.
Great question. Right now, the biggest priority for me is my platform of affordable housing, bringing better transit options to users, and sustainability and improving infrastructure. Meeting the needs of the community with safe streets is huge, especially when it comes to bike lanes and how they're being used. And of course, we need to be honoring our history by innovating for the future.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Craig. Sorry, Bill.
The main thing that I'm looking at are the citizen circles in order to get greater citizens' participation and engagement in the city. I want to make the decisions that we're making moving forward to come from the ground up, not from the top down. That's a critical priority for me. I also want to make sure that there's a more diverse voices being brought to council and being heard in council. I also want to make sure that our environment and the ecosystem that is crashing down around us is clearly understood and its impacts are ameliorated beforehand rather than afterwards. I want to make sure, as I said, the citizens of the city have control of what's happening in the city, and that means we've got to have a better relationship with the province and a more clear understanding of the fact that we need to run our own home.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Bill. Stephen Foster.
All right. So yeah, as I said at the outset, I think the most pressing issue we face is affordable housing. That would be a huge priority for me. I also think we need to work to build a police force that our entire community can trust and rely on. We need to make sure that Halifax remains and continues to be a green city, meaning preserving our green spaces and working to do our part for climate change. And of course, we need to make sure we guide the city well out through our recovery from COVID. As for how I'll achieve all those things, tough to get into in a minute, so I hope people check out my platform and my website. I'll also say that issues aside, I really do want to make a priority of, like I said, bringing a scientific attitude to council, really being evidence-based, being willing to change my mind, being willing to listen to people. That's the kind of councillor that I want to be.
That's great. Thank you very much, Stephen. Okay. Repeat the question. What are your priorities for the next 4 years? How do you plan on achieving them? Sean Clark, would that be okay?
Pardon?
Sean, did you get the question? So what are your priorities for the next 4 years and how do you plan on achieving them?
Affordable housing, family units in the system, because my family, one of my cousins has been denied multiple apartments because she has kids. I will in this try to work with the province. I will work against the province if I have to. I will pick whatever fight is necessary to make sure people have homes. I got a call Wednesday night last week from a woman in District 10 whose rent went from $695 to $1,600. Her roommate, who's disabled, will not be able to go with her to her next place. And so he will be homeless as of January. We can't have things like that happening. We need to work with community groups to identify the actual population of people in need of affordable housing and work towards making sure everybody is taken care of, no matter what their status.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Sean. Sean Cleary.
Thanks, Patrick. So actually, in my first 2 months of being a counselor back in 2016, 17, Richard Zarowski and I, as we were going through our corporate planning process, actually added evidence-based decision-making as a core value of municipality. So that is how we make decisions, and things like making Halifax more financially and environmentally sustainable with smarter land use planning, which means finishing the center plan, which means doing the regional plan review, implementing the Halifax 2050 Climate Action Plan, the most ambitious plan of any city in Canada. Part of that is going to be our own buildings and assets net zero by 2030, community by net zero by 2050, electrifying our buses, looking at hydrogen as a fuel source, making our streets safer by getting more dedicated bus lanes, bike lanes, local street bikeways, AT routes, sidewalks, crosswalks, finishing our integrated mobility plan, making our city fair, inclusive, restructuring police, building affordable housing by direct investments, and working with the provincial and federal government.
Okay, wow, look at there. Okay, thank you very much, Sean. We're going to go to Jerry, and then we're going to go to Jen. So Jerry.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Patrick. I think affordable housing is a priority. The other thing I want to see happen in 4 years is I want to see police body cams. I think that will keep everybody accountable and will make everything more transparent. The other thing is we need to encourage our small businesses. This economy is run by small businesses. We need to support them. We need to encourage small startups, perhaps even by waiving some fees, helping with energy costs. Just let them get on the ground, let them start paying taxes, let them hire employees. And once they're up and running, we'll be able to recover from this much more quickly. I want to see more participation from the community, more surveys, more communication, and of course, net zero for buildings, for city buildings. I want to see more wind turbines, even if they're small ones put on top of large buildings. We can do that at the Halifax waterfront. We have a project going like that. I think that there's a lot of things we can do, including planting trees. There's so many streets in this city that don't even have any trees. These are small things that we can accomplish.
And we're going to cut you off there, Jerry, but you had a good list. Thank you. Okay, on to Jen.
The biggest priority is dealing with the climate crisis. I propose that HRM require net zero buildings starting immediately. I want HRM to develop a carbon budget. Each proposal before council should state how much carbon it would use as a percentage of the total budget, with this information independently verified. Materials such as concrete, steel and glass, as well as emissions produced during construction, will need to be accounted for. Halifax will need to account for the emissions cost of the new Friendship Center, the proposed new Victoria General, and the parkade at the Halifax Infirmary. Accounting for these emissions will allow Halifax to stay within its carbon target and allow for informed decision-making about the development the city can afford. I want to make transit free. We need a way to get private vehicles off the road. Halifax is a great city, but it needs to come to grips with certain realities that we have spent decades, hundreds of years, in some cases, trying to ignore. These include environmental, economic, and social realities that in many ways we are still denying because we have invested so much in them that we can't bring ourselves to
All right, Ben, I'm going to have to cut you off there, but thank you very much. Gave you a few extra seconds, obviously, for the machine, but thank you very much for that. And now, finally, we'll go to, I think it's last but not least, we'll go to Wei.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, I've been championing some real systematic changes in the last 8 years, starting with the 2014 regional plan, with a new aggressive set of environmental goals, and most recently, Halifax 2050 and the rapid transit plan. I will continue to provide leadership on council to get the province and the feds to help come in and fund those plans. I want to empower residents, expand low-income fair access programs, adopt living wage policy, complete our affordable housing framework, and address systemic racism. I want to make Halifax green. We need to prioritize climate change and environmental stewardship, deep energy retrofits for homes, green development standards, and meet our Halifax 2050 carbon budget, and connect Halifax to successfully transform mobility in the region and meet our green goals and carbon budget. We need to follow through on our bike lane and sidewalk trail plans and build rapid transit with electric buses. Can't really answer this question in 1 minute. Please visit votewaymason.ca for more information. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Wei. And thank you to everyone. I do want to say and acknowledge that we do have a number of questions that we were unable to get to. Clearly, we tried to go quickly with the 1 minute, and I really appreciate everyone respecting that, but it was impossible to do. So I just want to read off these questions because I think for all of you, it would be good to hear these questions so that you can keep them in mind as you pursue your candidacy. So the first question from Karen, we do need affordable housing, but we also need areas that are definitely off limits to development so that these areas continue to be our life support systems. What would you do to protect ecologically important areas in your district beyond just implementing the Halifax Green Network Plan? Good question. To the three councillors, one issue that some of you have worked on was the removal of our property assessment cap. To many peninsular taxpayers, especially older ones, this is very disturbing and is often seen as another tax and revenue grab. Please briefly explain your involvement in this process, if any, and your position re the cap removal. And then finally, during the next 4 years, councillor salaries may exceed $100,000. How do you feel re-salary limits or even a reduction? I think there was one other question that I missed, although I see Craig answered it, which is good. Halifax is almost 250 years old since its founding and is filled with history and heritage. How do you feel about protecting and honoring our physical and cultural heritage? We will send you all of the questions so that you can keep them in mind, as I know many of you are making lists as you're going door to door. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I think I know all of you would make great candidates, so thank you all. Make great candidates. I'm sure all of you would make great counselors. Wonderful to see you all here. Really appreciate you stepping in. Want to thank the candidates again for participating and giving your constituents, including the folks at the Halifax Chamber of Commerce, a chance to ask questions and meet you on a more personal level. A huge thank you to Chris Peters and our sponsor at the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors for the opportunity to promote the importance of voting. Did I miss that? Chris, did you promote the importance of voting? You're all for voting, aren't you? Yes, 100%. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. I'm for voting too. I think we're all for voting. So let's encourage that. And, you know, I did hear a lot of talk. I tried to keep my opinions to myself. I know for some of you that have heard me speak before, you know that's difficult for me. So thank you very much. But I think it's great to hear a diversity of opinions from you know, the group that we had today. Keep an eye on our bulletin and social media as we will continue to post candidate responses to questions. We may ask the candidates to respond to some of the questions that we had today. Thank you all very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. This will be, or it has been recorded, and it will be available to all of you over the next little while. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a nice rest of your sunny day. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.